Hello, everyone.
Hello, indeed. We are the Random Podcast of Awesomeness, going for our 33rd, 32nd, somewhere in there.
We're up there. But yes, this is another episode of the Random Podcast of Awesomeness, and
Yay!
today we are reviewing the game Mega Man 4
For the Game
for the
Boy,
Game Boy, not to be confused with Mega Man 4
for the
for the
NES.
NES.
Although we totally understand if you get them confused, they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Yes, actually, Mega Man 4, the Game Boy version, is actually built off of Mega Man 4 and 5 for the NES.
This is because Mega Man 4 and 5, as everyone has been so kind and eager to point out to everyone else, they're pretty much built off the exact same damn game engine.
Right.
Even
So
in the
as
early years, Capcom was super lazy.
yes, they were. So as we stated, this is Mega Man, and you start off as Mega Man, also known to Japan as Rockman.
Which got very confusing at some point during development, because, oh yes, Robot Masters.
Yes. Uh, in this game, you are to help Dr. Wily. Not
Light,
Dr. Wily, Dr. Light.
who the game
By
mistranslates as Dr. Wright several times, but then again,
yes,
the NES games did that too.
yes, they did. Uh, by getting the P capsules,
hmm
and by getting the P capsules, you are able to get various upgrades in the game.
Yes, after getting the energy equalizer, the only upgrade that I ever bought was the 1-up.
Uh, yes, a lot of them cost quite a few of the P chips. So,
Yes.
uh, now, as always, if you are familiar with the franchise of Mega Man, you start off and you have a few various stages that you can pick from.
hmm Although this, I believe, is the first time, unless they did it with one of the earlier titles on the Game Boy, where you only start off with 4 Robot Masters. I thought this game was actually going to be much shorter because of this, but thankfully, due to plot spoiling, we do actually get all 8 Robot Masters.
Yes, you do. Uh, you have to beat the first four stages in order to get to the rest of it. Uh, Trying to remember the first four. First four, you have Pharaoh Man,
Ringman, Brightman,
Ringman.
and who was the one that I actually who was the other one that I had a bunch of difficulty taking down? It wasn't Crystal because Crystal's in the second set.
Crystal's in the second set. Uh, but yes, there are four of them.
God damn it! I just played the second
I know,
half of this
right?
yesterday. um,
Forgive us if we
Toad
forgot.
Man, that's it. I
Oh
remember
yes,
why.
Toad Man. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that explains why we don't remember what he was.
Uh, each stage pretty much represents the boss in some way or another.
Yes, like Toadman, you'll be going through a rainy marsh. Or is it the sewers? I'm pretty sure it's actually the sewers because I remember having a lot of difficulty thanks to the water currents in
Yeah.
Toadman stage.
Uh, Now each stage has, for the most part, its own set of enemies. With various ways to defeat them.
hmm
Uh, Now, I don't know if you felt this way or not, Gerdat, but I felt that they weren't really as key in this game as the boss, since I didn't really take much damage from them.
I can say that although the individual enemies were not that difficult, a few of the level gimmicks were incredibly difficult.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
And the whole reason why enemies aren't that difficult is because for the first time, technically, Mega Man's got the actual Mega Buster, which is the charge shot, and the charge
Yes.
shot will one shot almost any of the bigger or smaller enemies. It makes grinding for P-chips in certain stages much easier than it should be.
Not that you really need to grind for P-chips in the game.
I find myself really wanting to, even though I have to admit once again, I pretty much cheated to go through this. I ended up using save states a lot.
I could see that in some spaces. Uh, but yes, each of the levels is hard for reasons other than the fact that there's enemies. For example, in Pharaoh Man stage, you have to go through sand pits.
I didn't find that the sand pits themselves were actually that big of a deal for me.
They weren't really that big of a deal, but this was the first one that came to mind.
Honestly, I think I had more problems dealing with Toadman's water currents. Uh,
Yes, that was annoying as well.
Even though you're never totally submerged, the water columns are still an active threat for you. And who was the last one that I took down when I did the first set? I remember that the one thing that really pissed me off while going through Ringman stage was the fact that his decaying platform gimmick.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, that can go fuck itself over in large different fires. But it wasn't nearly as difficult as I make it out to be. It was just that I'm horrible at Mega Man. I am. It is sad.
Uh, of course, it wasn't too bad if you knew what you're doing. I
After
watched the person
multiple
do it.
attempts, you can actually get through. You can actually get through the stages pretty all right. Mainly because the only enemies that you really have to worry about are the mini bosses, and even most of them aren't that bad, save for the fucking hippo.
Yeah, that was annoying. Uh, but yeah, for the most part, you're just gonna have to figure out ways around things.
hmm
Uh, Mega Man, as always, has his 8 directional gun, which can shoot from various angles, which makes
No, it
killing
can't.
things easy.
The Mega Buster can only shoot in a single direction. It's only after getting weapon upgrades that he can shoot in multiple directions.
Okay, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But yes, you start out with the Mega Buster, only able to shoot in forward direction, and then you can have it upgraded.
By defeating various robot masters.
Now each robot master you get a different upgrade from.
hmm For example, Toadman's weapon, the Rain Flush, acts as a screen nuke.
It can be very useful, yes.
It's the only
Uh,
way I found to reliably kill the fucking the hippo mini bosses, of which there are two. I can't stand trying to mega buster the hippo bosses. I really can't.
uh, Now, in order to access your powers,
You have to go to the start menu.
you have to go to the start menu.
hmm this is one of the first Mega Man games to actually have multiple screens. This is due to the fact that throughout your journey you'll be able to collect partial E-tanks and full E-tanks, as well as buy upgrades from Dr. Light using the P-chips that go on the alternate screen. I, being unable to actually get through the entirety of the game, never actually found myself going to the second screen, even though I got all 4 of my E-tanks. Yes, you can hold a total of 4 E-tanks, and what E-tanks do is that they can fully restore Mega Man's life one time.
Yes. Uh, I really didn't see the need for this using an emulator, but
No, no, no. E-tanks, even on emulators, are a very welcome addition. It
they are.
it's why a lot of people complain when E-tanks were just totally absent from Mega Man and Base, because ow ow, all of the difficulty spikes and no E-tanks to fix them.
Uh, One of the other, since we're mostly talking about controls at this point. One
hmm
of the big controls that you're going to want to be able to use is your sliding kick.
Yes. To activate the slide, just press down and jump. Much like a Sonic Spin Dash.
Right.
And the thing about the slide that a lot of people might not actually notice is that if Mega Man can't get up, he'll just continue sliding. He'll just continue sliding. It can actually be really fun to go under a long narrow passageway and just slide back and forth for a couple minutes.
But yes, using this ability, you are able to get under blocks that you wouldn't normally be while you're standing, or otherwise being able to move across platforms quickly.
hmm It is a very very nice feature, and I'm glad it's here. I like having the slide.
Yes, it's very nice to have. Uh, Now, one thing I'd like to mention is when you when you use your charge shot,
hmm
uh, if you're not really paying attention, I don't think most people will notice this right away, but you actually do get a bit of a kickback from it.
Yes, this is something that I noticed almost immediately because I was not because I'm pretty sure in the original in the NES version of Mega Man 4 and onwards, the charge shot did not push you back. It was pretty much, oh, you have a high-powered shot, but it takes a while to charge up thing. And whereas here is not only does it take a while to charge up, but Mega Man's body is not exactly accustomed to having it, so he gets knocked back when he uses it. And this, my friends, is why you don't always want to just be charging your shot. Because if you're jumping and there's an enemy that you want to kill and you align yourself up, you fire the charge shot, your forward momentum goes to shit and you fall into bottomless pits. All of the bottomless pits.
Yes.
So be careful with that. It is definitely a thing that's going to catch veteran players off guard because I don't think that this was here in four and onward in the NES games. There are actually a lot of differences between this and the NES title.
One of them actually being that you don't actually fight Dr. Wily in number 4 in the NES version.
True. Due to plot reasons, you're fighting Dr. Cossack in number 4.
Yes.
However, you're fighting Dr. Wily again in this game. So
Yes, you have the lovely time of fighting against Dr. Wily again in this lovely title. Uh, but yes, should we talk more about the first 4 stages?
um, I don't really know if there's that much really to talk about. I mean, Brightman stage has got the lights on, lights off gimmick, which is pretty simple if you know intimidating at first. Toadman, we already talked about him being a sewer level and go fuck him. Ringman, we talked about the disappearing platforms that are a bit more difficult than I'd like, but not more difficult than I make them out to be. And who was the other one?
Toadman,
Toadman, Ringman,
Ringman,
Brightman.
Brightman, and Pharaoh Man.
Yeah, and Pharaoh Man's sinking sands gimmick. We've talked a bit about the levels, but what about the bosses themselves? I hate Ringman, but honestly, he's the only one that I had that much of a problem with.
Uh,
At least of the first four.
I found myself using the rain against Ringman quite a bit.
I did not go out of my way to do additional research for this one, and I probably should have because if I had, I would have learned the weakness chain better. Mm, so I ended up mega bustering all of the robot masters, and I'm very glad that I did that because it's always a goal of mine to go through these games and use the special weapons as little as possible.
But yeah, it's not really that hard to really Mega Buster them to death.
It's hard to mega buster Ringman, I'll tell you that. Ring Even though the enemy attacks aren't that difficult to absorb damage from, they're a lot harder to avoid than you'd think that they would be.
Yeah.
And if you're focused so hard on avoiding the enemy attacks, you'll end up running into the enemy themselves, which hurts you even more. I managed to Mega Buster Ringman at half health, and I do not recommend that experience for anybody. Even after looking up a video walkthrough on how to actually do that, I ended up fucking up. I ended up fucking up 2 times, and I just barely survived it. But it is possible. Everyone can be Mega Bustered, which is a good thing. Well, except for the fucking hippo. I defy you to Mega Buster the goddamn hippo.
So yes, after you end up... Well, actually, we wanted to go over the other ones, right?
Yes. Much like in his NES counterpart, Toadman is unfortunately the easiest robot master.
Yes, he is.
This is entirely because his attack pattern does in fact reset after taking damage. Mind you, I don't know when he has to exactly take damage to reset his pattern, but I was able to get him in the lock anyway. So, Pharaoh Man is actually reasonably difficult if you let him do his charge shot. If you can kill him before he gets his charge shots off, there's not really that much to worry about. However, I'm damn sure that charge shot is actually unavoidable on if he's on the upper platform. If he's flat on the ground, then if he's on the lower platforms, then you can dodge it just fine. But I think if he's on the upper platform, you can't dodge it.
But
But that's
if you're
but
quick
that's
enough in
really
this game, you
pheromones
don't really
only.
have to worry about that.
And then we have Brightman. I don't remember fighting Brightman. I really don't. So I assume he must have been really easy for me.
He was actually very easy.
Oh wait, I remember. Yeah, Brightman could freeze time. A lot of robot masters have that ability. Come to think of it, Flashman, Centaur Man, Brightman.
So yes, after beating the four of them, you end up finding out this is not as short a game as you really thought it might have been.
Indeed, as we get our newcomer, who isn't Proto Man. I don't know who this character is. Shadow, did you manage to find up any story on who the hell this character is?
No, not really.
Really?
I'm kind of curious who he is, actually.
So the game doesn't tell us, and I know because I actually did bother to watch one. I did bother to watch the opening cutscene. At least I think I did. And the game doesn't tell us who he is. I think there is a splash panel of him in the game somewhere. But we don't know his name. We don't know his motivations. Just that he's a rival for Mega Man, and he's apparently helping Dr. Wily.
So yes, this is the second half where you end up getting against the four other robot masters.
Indeed, Charge Man, Napalm Man, God damn it, Crystal Man, and Stone Man. Okay,
Yep.
I managed to remember them this time. Um, I found myself not really having too many problems with a few of these levels in particular. I think that the Crystal Man and Charge Man's levels are actually pretty easy. Um, but Napalm Man's level, due to its non-linearity, can really screw you over sometimes. And I think uh, who is and I think Stone Man's level actually has a few too many gimmicks that can really screw you over too. Otherwise, these particular levels aren't actually that bad. And on all seriousness, I think the second half setting of Robot Masters is far easier than the first.
I will actually have to agree with you on that.
Charge Man, other than his raining coals attack, is very easy to dodge for the most part. Napalm Man is pretty easy to dodge, although when he actually launches the napalm bombs, it's pretty easy to get out of the way of those, depending on where you are on the screen. Stone Man, although difficult to Mega Buster, is probably really easy with his weakness, although I don't know what it is. And Crystal Man is actually this pretty much the second easiest Robot Master here. Not because his attack is that easy to dodge, but once you know how to dodge it, I'm pretty sure you're never going to get hit by anything in his stage again.
Uh,
One thing that we didn't actually mention, however, is that while you're traveling through these stages, you are able to collect certain letters. In particular, the
yes,
letters for Beat the Bird, which if you collect all four in the first half of the game, you unlock Beat the Bird. I have not really used him yet, sadly.
I haven't really either.
And in the latter four stages, you can get the letters for Wily. You need to get the letters for Wily, as far as
Yes,
I
this is
saw.
required.
Okay, and I actually think that's kind of bullshit because of the W in is it? I want to say it's either Napalm Man stage or Rock Man stage, but one of the characters can only be accessed. No, it's Crystal Man stage. One of the characters can only be accessed by going a very specific path. Matter of fact, each of the characters has to be gotten on a very specific path.
Right.
So there is a little bit of bullshit level design here.
So you might end up having to go through a level again in order to get the letter.
hmm Now, because I was actually cheating and using save states, I never actually figured out if you could just auto leave stages. Can you do that?
Uh, I actually didn't try it, so I'm not sure.
Okay, that is something that you'll have to test out for yourself, listeners and viewers. If I actually do a video for this, I think I will. But anything else that we want to go over for the basic Robot Masters?
I think for the most part we got down how they play.
Right. So after collecting the letters for Wily. Oh wait, there's one thing that I want to mention. You can actually go back to the first half of the game if you want to after clearing it. I accidentally discovered this. You have to hit B. You have to hit B on the robot select stage multiple times.
Yep.
Although I don't think that you can get back to Doctor Light's shop. I'm not entirely sure though. Mm.
I know after beating a stage, you should be able to go back to a Dr. Light's shop to be able to do that.
I know that you should, but I didn't actually figure out how to do it. It's probably just start at the Robot Master select screen. Ah. Anyway, after defeating the second set of four Robot Masters, our lovely Mega Man rival antagonist man shows up again. And you have to fight him again. Yes, you had to fight him the first time, and even though you managed to defeat him, he kind of,
He runs away.
yeah, he runs away because he is antagonist man, and it is not yet time for you to absorb his powers. But the second time, you actually do manage to beat him, and I found this fight to be a little more challenging than the first one, but not that much. It is antagonist man weak to anything?
Hmm. Uh,
I ask because I do not know.
I'm not quite sure either.
Oh, damn. Antagonist man can be mega busted pretty easily. You just got to end up watching out where he ends up setting up his grenades. And I think the whole gimmick of the fight is getting him to run into his own grenades. So at least that's how I think you're supposed to do it. That's not how I ended up doing it, mind you, because I'm so totally contrary and anti against the establishment, at least according to Burke. But after defeating him, you get the Magnum Bomb, or whatever its name actually is. I really don't know. And then you are thrown in to probably the worst gimmick level in the entire damn game.
Yes.
The first time that you beat antagonist man, you're sent to Wily's ammo depot, and it's actually not that bad. You blow up a bunch of his missiles, you leave, and the place blows up. No big deal. It looks like it's the end of the game, but it really isn't. Second time you beat antagonist man, you're sent into a second ammo depot, And this time, Wily has decided, hey, you know what? It's time for me to actually be active in the story. So he starts blowing up the ammo depot as you're traveling through it. You wouldn't think this would be a problem, except other than the Magnum bomb, the only other weapon that you have that can be fired in multiple directions are the Pharaoh shot and Crystal Eye. And the Crystal Eye doesn't pierce walls. I'm not entirely sure if the Pharaoh shot does it either. I think it might, but even if it does, the Pharaoh shot can only blow up one missile at a time, whereas the Magnum bomb can blow up multiple missiles at a time due to its blast radius.
Yeah.
This level can go fuck itself. This gimmick even though it's close to the end of the game and we should be used to it, it's the first time we've actually seen this particular gimmick, and the Magnum Bomb explosion radius, as well as the explosion radius for the missiles, hurts like a son of a bitch. I think you can take maybe 4 of these explosions before you just outright die. But this stage can go screw itself. I remember being stuck on this stage for a good hour, and it was not fun. No.
Yeah, that was a bit of an annoyance. But yeah, once you get through it, you're okay.
Yes, once you get through it, you end up going into Wily's airship. I could not beat Wily's airship. I couldn't do it. I have no idea how you're supposed to take down the second of the metal turrets. Because the first of the metal turrets you can Mega Buster pretty easy due to it, not having any alternate attacks other than the electric orb that bounces around. The
Yeah,
second of the metal turrets, however, has got a homing missile on it that immediately adds a shit ton more difficulty onto the fight. I have
I'm
no idea
trying to
how.
I'm
I
trying
have
to
no
think
idea
back. I
what you're
actually did
supposed to
beat it,
do.
but I don't remember how you beat that part.
I know it's just a mini boss, and I shouldn't be giving it that much credit for difficulty. But since the part before it is, a missile barrage, where if you're not grinding for health or ammo, you're taking a shit ton of damage. Although that is probably one of the better spots in the game to grind for health and ammo. At least if you're familiar enough with the control scheme to do it. There's also the pretty much not a predecessor, but an ancestor of the jumping robots from Mega Man 1 on the third screen, who takes way too much damage and isn't guaranteed to drop anything. Ugh. But yeah, that's where I ended up. I ended up getting in onto the second metal turret on the Wily airship. See, lots of differences between this and the NES cartridge.
Yes,
We got
there
Antagonist Man, we got Wily Airship, we got Metal Turret.
reading. I actually think the antagonist is named Blade.
Really? Blade?
Blade.
Yeah, Ballad. My bad. Yeah, it's Ballad.
Yeah, Ballad.
That makes sense. Then why the hell didn't he ever come back? That's actually a really cool name.
Very good question.
Maybe he comes back in the next Game Boy game. Hmm. Probably not, though.
Uh, but yes, I don't want to give too much away, but this is pretty much the point in the game where you get to Dr. Wily and you have there's a part where you battle he is a giant robot
Well, of course he is. He's always
because
in a Wily machine.
he's Dr. Wily, he's going to be in a giant robot of some sort. And it takes 2 parts, one part where you battle the arms and one part where you battle the head.
Yeah. Just like all the other Wily machines.
Yeah.
Take out the external core, then take out the internal cockpit.
Uh, Thus bringing peace to the world of Mega Man.
For the next 15 minutes until Wily breaks out of prison and/or remembers that he's the villain.
because that doesn't happen enough in the Mega Man series.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, that's the gameplay, the story, and uh, talking about the game a little bit more. I wanted to mention the fact that in this game, the enemies, if you move off screen and go back, you will actually notice that they respawn.
Curse you, respawn!
Uh, this can be a bit of an annoyance, especially if you are if you just killed something that has a charge shot and go back and get hit by it.
Yeah, but to the game's credit, this is actually one of its saving graces too, because this is pretty much the only way you can really grind for either life or ammo. It's very slow and tedious, but in the event that you need to do it, it is there.
Yeah, it is there. Uh,
And I'm not sure which one I'd rather have: lack of grinding or lack of grinding, but lack of grinding without the enemy respawn, or enemy respawn with the chance to grind. I really don't know which one I would prefer.
uh, Either way, that's what the game does.
Hmm.
Uh,
But how does it look and sound like? It looks like an NES Mega Man game.
it does.
I mean, I think the screen is a bit lower res than what the NES originally had. You'll at least when I was playing it, I thought the Mega Man sprite looked a bit bigger than its NES counterpart. But again, this is more than likely due to the screen. This is more likely due to the smaller screen res.
That's probably true because it's not like you had much screen resolution on the Game Boy.
Right.
Uh, I mean, for what they could do for a black and white game,
A black and white 8-bit handheld system.
I think they did all right with it.
Yes, it did very good actually. I do think that a lot of the level themes do shine through. Although I really wish this was one of those games that actually had the color add-on that a lot of other Game Boy games were programmed with. Mind you, we didn't really get that color add-on until post 95, so it makes sense that
Right.
it's not here.
I mean, why add something that's not available?
Right.
Uh, Granted, the sprite work, I think they did a really good job with.
Yes, you can tell what everything is just by a quick just from a quick glance, and you can even tell what a lot of the things are based on.
And even though it's an 8-bit handheld game, I think they really did a great job with the backgrounds as well.
Yes, the backgrounds are actually pretty nice too, although I don't notice them that much.
Uh, I mean, they are there, and I think still did a good job with them.
Hmm.
Uh, the sound, uh, I guess I didn't really notice it too much, except there are actually 2 points in this game where there is a sound that bugs the heck out of me. And if you were playing, I'm sure you know where it was, Gerdat.
Oh yeah, the Wily capsule noise.
Yes.
Yes, the Wily capsule noise is one of the most infamous gaming sounds of all time. That and Mega Man's charge shot noise. I don't actually mind Mega Man's charge shot. I'll
I didn't
grant that
mind that.
I'll grant that I couldn't listen to it for like a full hour with nothing else going on, but I could ignore it if I had other things going on. Whereas the Wily capsule noise, it's like, okay, I've been listening to this for 60 seconds, get it away. No, seriously, I'll mute my speakers, goddammit.
Yes, it was very, very hard to listen to.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the rest of the sounds were actually not bad.
Yes. The rest of the sound and music options are very, well, not options, but tracks are, very good. And pretty much a standard fare for the Mega Man games.
Now, one thing we didn't mention that I wanted to mention is uh, even though at this time in Nintendo's history there are games that actually have save features, Mega Man 4 does not have a save feature.
This is because we are still on the archaic use of passwords, Mister Shadow.
Exactly. In this game, after you beat a boss, you are presented with a password.
My advice: don't write down the passwords. Just play an MU and use save states.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way you want to do it.
The password system was very intuitive at the time, but this was pre 90. And even like post 91, we still had a few games that had password systems, but they were dying out. Mm.
Uh, let's see here. Anything else we want to bring up about the game?
Um well, for one, I wanted to bring up the simple fact that once again, I was not actually able to beat this game. I got way farther than I did with Adventure Island, but I wanted to ask if you managed to beat it.
Yes, yes, I actually did beat it.
How did you feel about the Wily capsule fight?
Uh, Granted, it was a little annoying. I didn't have too much of a hard time doing it, and that in part is probably because I used the napalm bombs,
Mm.
which is they're pretty powerful.
Yes, the napalm bombs are very powerful, but if you don't hit them directly, they take forever to detonate.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why I do like a good portion of these weapons. I really like Pharaoh Shot. I think that Crystal Eye has a lot of potential, and the Ballad Magnum is actually is not a bad weapon. However, other than the Rain Flush, I don't use any of these for pretty much anything. I end up forcing myself to use a Charge Kick, Pharaoh Shot, Ballad Magnum, and the Mega Buster, trying to get through the exploding ammo depot. But that's the only time where I'm really forced into using these weapons, aside from the fucking hippo. I keep bringing up this damn hippo, but seriously, go fuck yourself. Why the hell can't I hit you? Damn, that mini boss gimmick is terrible.
One small thing I wanted to mention. I guess it's just more of a gripe than like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but changing between the weapons on the list, they're abbreviated as two letters.
And usually they correspond to the robot masters that you got them from.
Right. So,
Unfortunately, you don't remember this while you're attempting to switch to them. So it's like, what the fuck is BR? Oh,
right.
okay, that's Bright Flash. What the fuck is okay? CR is Crystal Eye. What the fuck is TO? Oh, Toadman's Weapon Rain Flush. Okay. Mm,
You would think they would at least do something like RF for rain flush or
hmm
something, but that was something that kind of bothered me.
but here's the thing: they've been doing that. They've been doing that ever since Mega Man One, and I don't think that they actually changed that particular practice.
Well, it's just the fact that it's just there and it kind of bothers me. They could have taken the time to write out the name of the
Mm.
actual power.
There's not really enough space for for the full name, but different abbreviations would have been nice.
Right.
Oh, that's right. We also get to see Eddie in this game once.
Yes.
He's in one of the stages once.
Yes.
Where the fuck were you, Eddie?
Doesn't he give you like a energy tank or something?
When I actually came across Eddie, the one he still probably does give you a random item. And the item that he gave me this time was a large heal. So Eddie is cool. He really is. but once in one stage. Ugh.
Right. Oh well. I guess it's at least nice that he made a small cameo.
Yes, a very small cameo. You might accidentally shoot at him because where the hell were you, Eddie?
Right.
I could have used you during just before any of the Robot Masters. I could have used you in Ballad Man stage or Ballad stage. That's his name, Ballad.
Yes. Uh, any other things you want to mention, Gradette?
Um, I want to say that the difficulty of this particular title is actually on the moderate side. At least when it comes to the Mega Man, at least when it comes to the Mega Man games. I have played and beaten Mega Man 6 for the NES. That is the only Mega Man game I have actually ever played and beaten.
Uh, even though I haven't played a lot of Mega Man games, I will agree that it is moderate in difficulty.
Yes, nothing in this game is actually that difficult until until you've been at it for about 15 minutes and just really need to go do something else.
Right. Uh, I actually enjoyed this game quite a bit.
As did I. I did enjoy a lot of the level themes and most of the level gimmicks. One of the level gimmicks that I had a specific problem with, I had a problem with, although I thought it was really cool, was this platform that while you're standing on it, it actually moves slanted downward. I don't remember where this particular well this really was. I think it was in Brightman stage.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. Yep.
And this platform shows up twice. Thing is, the first time I was going through this, uh, the first platform gives you the first one gets you access to a large P-trip drop and an extra life. And I'm like, okay, I can get there pretty easy, but where do I go from here? Turns out, the platform is not actually the platform while it's pushing against that other platform isn't going to push you off into the abyss, assuming that you're actually holding right. So it's it's a thing that kind of threw me off, but I still enjoyed the concept of this particular gimmick.
Oh, one other thing I sort of want to mention is you actually do get Rush in this game.
Yes, we didn't mention Rush. How dare we?
Uh, which Rush is very useful.
Yes. Although, in all seriousness, I ended up using Rush Jet in areas that I could have just jumped over because I wasn't
Yeah.
confident in my own jumping abilities. And the only time I remember using Rush Coil was to get a specific energy tank.
But yeah, he is in there.
Yes, and Rush Marine works in space. I don't even know.
Uh, I think that's probably about that, and we can probably get to the scoring then, huh?
Yes. For our final thoughts, I like this game. I do. I'm probably not going to come back to it though. It is. I do see where a lot of the complaints are with the a lot of the complaints that are with the NES cartridge, the NES version, hold true here. The level design is good, but you can tell that in certain areas it's either a bit cheap or lacking in innovation. And and the robot masters themselves, although I'm getting a little hoarse here. The robot masters themselves, although are interesting fights, are either a bit too difficult or way too easy. And it has a lot of fluctuating difficulty, which is to be expected of these titles, but it feels very unfocused in areas. I want to give this game a 6 out of 10 because it is a good game and I did have fun playing it, but I'm not going to come back to this and it's not really the best designed.
Okay. Uh, for the most part, I agree with you. I think they did a good job with the level design, and I really enjoyed most of how this game played. Uh, there were a few minute things that I found difficult, but otherwise, I really enjoyed how everything went. Uh, so for that, I think I'm gonna give this actually a 7 out of 10.
That makes sense.
Uh, it's about that. So
All right, guys. With that, we are the random podcast of awesomeness. I need to see if Ben actually got on.
so yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and until next time,
This is Gurdette14 and
Shadow Wolf.
for the random podcast of awesomeness. Be safe, everybody, and have a good night.